This is Shawn Crystal. Catch the Inkpulp podcast on Pharcyde TV Wednesdays at noon Pacific Time, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Come hang. Peace.
Okay, I hit record that time. Oh, stop it.
Yeah, they say good leaders delegate. So Stefania is gonna hold up my end of the show while I go do something different.
This is already long enough sometimes at an hour. Now I've got to talk to a proxy of yours. That does look good though. That's pretty cool. I love that kind of stuff. I love it when
Me too.
I'm an Ashley Wood. If I were to buy any sort of figures, I've been buying a lot of his 3A stuff. I don't know if he's left 3A since, so I don't know if they're doing too many more with him. But they did X amount of figures based on his interpretations of Marvel characters. So there's a Captain America one that looks pretty dang awesome. I have that. There's often two versions. One is like the black and white version, and one is like in the full color or whatever. But oftentimes they're not really super saturated. They're like the toned down.
Like Ashley,
right, like Ashley's art, So they have that. They have the Black Widow one that I have. They have a Doctor Doom one, an Iron Man one. Which, by the way, they have 4 different versions of the Iron Man one. None of them I like for whatever reason. I'm not a fan. They have a Doctor Doom and an Ultron. Which one?
That doesn't surprise me. While Ashley Wood is known for robots, his robots are very simplified design work. But
his Ultron looks awesome. His Doctor Doom looks awesome. Those are robot-ish, right?
Okay.
These ones, I think, the paints the paint applications. They have a white and red one, gold and red one, the classic. They have a. I think they may have a stealth one. Either way, or an all-white one, and I didn't like any of them. But anyway, so the one that's missing that I can't find, at least within my price range, because number one, they're way out of print. And number two, once you
start going... Which one did you say you have?
All of those that I've mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The one that I don't have is the variation on the Spider-Man one, which is Peter Parker in more of street gear, right, in urban wear, with his mask on and a jacket and a backpack, controlling a spider bot that's about 3 or 4 heads taller than he is.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, if I have to, this, by the way, this is like people with means and resources kinds of problems. But if I had to go into buying it, I would buy the normal color one, which is like the standard, red and blue Spider-Man outfit with Peter wearing cargo shorts. He's remote controlling the Spider Bot, right? Which looks like a 10 heads high Spider-Man outfit, right?
Right.
But there was one that was released, which was limited edition, which is they're wearing all black.
Oh, that's
both of them. Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. But the lowest I'd ever found it for was a price threshold that I would never pay for a toy.
Do you remember what it was?
$700 something. Is a lot.
I love the world of 3-dimensional. They call them toys. I always call them sculptures or maquettes. But I love that world, and I like it best when it's the artist involved in designing it is really playing with shape.
Yep.
On a much more exaggerated level. I don't like the hyper realistic.
Me neither.
Like sideshow.
To each their own. But
right. I know those are going to sell better and more popular, but any day of the week, I would prefer this.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm the same way.
And that's why I want to hit that Designer Con show really bad.
Oh yeah, when is that?
That's in November.
And have you made plans to go to it yet?
I have applied for a table for the past 2 years. Last year, they approved my table a week before the show.
Okay.
And it's
So
out
there
in
was
LA.
no way for you to put it together. Yeah.
There was a way, but the cost of it was so, and the price of the table was like kind of crazy. I don't remember exactly what it was. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But with that little time to prepare with product to have at DesignerCon,
Right.
it made no sense to spend that kind of money on a table and a ticket.
We should just make plans to go, you and I. I'll go with you.
Just to walk the floor?
Just to go, yeah.
I want to do that. In fact,
it's in Anaheim, right?
Yeah. And Dave went last year for that very same reason. To check out all the cool pop culture stuff, which he had a horrible experience. But that's a different story.
Dave Johnson?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a very funny story.
I'd be intrigued to know what his experience was.
I can tell it. It's not anything bad. Okay. He had a friend with him. The friend flew in to go. Friend flew in for like a weekend hang, and was like, "Oh, let's go see DesignerCon." Now, the friend is from a state where marijuana is not legal.
Okay.
I was very excited, as you may have seen me be, in states where it is legal to go.
You are out of control sometimes, man.
How so?
You were like, it's as close as you can be as far as being giddy is concerned. Yeah, like you were when we all took our Italy tour. When we were in Italy, you were like, somebody needs to trank the fuck out of Shawn. Like you were throwing off the entire country. You know what I mean? Like you were this close to like ruining Italy for me. I was just like, I love this country.
Oh, I hope that's not true. I mean, I know
if Shawn is here, he ruins Italy for me. We cannot be on the same Italian. He could be on. We don't even have to be in proximity of each other. Like you can be north, and I can be super south of
so
that really small.
Milan and I'm in Rome.
You can be anywhere in the country simultaneously as me, and you would ruin that experience for me. Anyway, you were really at a 10, which is I think it's because you. And by the way, it's not a criticism; it's more of an observation, and it has a lot to do with your just childlike exuberance for things. You really love those kinds of experiences, and unlike me, which I'm dead inside and cynical as hell, right? Like nothing. I act like my shit doesn't stink everywhere I go. Right, I'm just a jerk at my DNA. If you were to like crack me, like if a scientist found my bones in the ground, exhumed me, and looked at me on a DNA level, I'm like, oh, this kid's got a lot of fucking cynicism in him. Like he's built out of cynicism, right? Like if they did the same to you and cracked open you'd be buried in a giant smiley face ball. I would think, like if they cracked open that casket. Like, oh shit, this guy's made out of like gumballs and gummy bears. You know what I mean? Like you're a really good kid. Anyway, that same level of exuberance, like appreciation for life, which I envy, and that's why I make fun of it, right? Like it you carry it everywhere. So when I saw you being like really like, oh my gosh, look at this, look at Italy. Which is the best way I can describe being with you. It's sometimes like, look at this thing that we're doing, and I love the fact that we're doing it. And you look back at me, and you go like, Eric, isn't this amazing? I'm like, oh, fucking, yeah, it's amazing, you know?
Yeah, it was when Mateo started to get irritated was when I was like, I need to check this. So Eric's been irritated, but that's okay. But Mateo's irritated? That's a new one.
That's my natural. Actually, you know why he was? Because he was our tour guide.
No, I know why. He was
and there was a lot of extra stress on that kid.
He was really wanting to make it the most amazing experience of our lives.
Absolutely. Like, absolutely. Really very accommodating Italian boy is Mateo. Right? Yeah. He wants you to he's that level of cool dude, right? But you couple that with I remember we were lost, right? He was looking for a specific restaurant that evening.
That was later. He got irritated with me at the gas station on the way to Venice.
No.
Yeah, remember there was all this candy. I was so excited about all the candy bars. And I asked
I got to be honest with you.
One of them was, and he got so angry, like he knew everything about every candy bar. I was like, all right, I'm going to calm down now.
Okay, listen, yes, I say this with all due respect. You had that coming. Like if you're asking the cat about like candy bars. That's what I'm saying.
Is like that was like, okay, all right, I need to check myself. I'm aware.
Anyway, still doesn't change my attitude, which is your level of enthusiasm is something that is charming about you. And I look at it, I'm like, oh, I wish I had a little bit more of that, but not really. You know what I mean? Like that is a very Shawn-centric trait. How does that refer? This
comes out when I go to dispensaries, is what you're saying.
That's what I mean. It just rears its disgusting candy ball head. Yeah. Whenever we're in a state in which, like, you are we were in Vegas, and I remember seeing you after you had gone to what I can only imagine to be like the Harry Potter land.
That was Willy Wonka's dispensary.
That's it. That's a great descriptive. I saw you after the fact.
Yeah.
You know, who were you there with? Who did you go with? I can't recall. Anyway.
It was just me. I came. It was me, you, Jason.
Oh, that's right.
And
it was to say that there was like you had a bag with you from Willy Wonka's factory.
Yeah, I went to lunch with you after that. Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine if I had gone with you. I think I would have just really gotten angry and called Matteo and say like, do that thing that you did when we were in Italy.
Shawn's doing it again.
Shawn's fucking around again. You know, being way too excited about weed and weed stuff.
So Dave had a version of me visiting.
Oh, I feel so bad for Dave.
And so they stopped at a dispensary on the way. Now, this person, unlike myself, was not very educated in the proper dosing that one should eat.
So enthusiastic about weed, but didn't know anything about weed.
Had never been to a dispensary before and didn't know like what's a proper dosage.
Oh,
so some of these places sell these gummies like you can only buy one, but they're jam packed.
Absolutely. So you take it with moderation. You break it up into
this
fours.
Person didn't even think to look, didn't know, ate the whole thing. This was a substantial edible. And this is a 3-hour drive through traffic to get to this place. So, you know, Dave has a little bit. And this
they took it ahead of time. Is that what you're saying?
In the car.
Yeah.
And got there, walked in, looked at Dave and said, I cannot do this. Not now.
Yeah.
I am freaking the fuck out. Okay. So they walked around for maybe 5-10 more minutes. And Dave saw the person absolutely panicking and said, okay, we'll go home now. And sat in another 3 hours to get home steaming. So that was Dave's experience. So knowing Dave, I started talking about Designer Con and how I'd like to do it.
Yeah.
His face just turned. I was like, what? He's like, fuck that place.
Oh, not because of the place.
No, that's why I said, you know, when you told me fuck that place, I was like, of anyone in our group, I would have thought that was home for you. Like knowing Dave's personal taste, like what Dave draws for fun, what he likes for fun. That's
what his home is adorned with. You know, right. Like
So I figured that place would be like his mecca, and he agreed with me after the fact. But yeah. So I really want to go. So yeah, I'd be open to exploring that with you for sure.
Okay, great. We can always set that up offline. You know, as far as like
we should do.
I mean, we know all those hotels in that area anyway.
I don't know.
Am I freezing on your end?
No, not at all. Why? Do you see yourself freezing?
No, I see you freezing.
I'm freezing this time?
Yeah, your video is glitchy. Like we'll pause just for maybe 1.5 to 2 seconds, and then what do you call it? And then your audio doesn't stop. You don't robot or anything, but
that's what I normally see with you. So the fact you're seeing it with me means there's something. Maybe doing it during the day on my end, the internet traffic is getting in the way.
Maybe. All right. We'll just soldier on. You know.
Did it happen last episode?
No.
Okay. I don't know.
It's happening now. We're doing it back to back. Your computer can't handle two sessions at the same time. Oh, by the way, if you're like looking at this episode, your audience looking at this episode and like, hey, those guys just are wearing the same exact thing. It's because we're doing two of these back to back. We want to be able to explain it, Shawn.
So we release these one every week. And when we started recording these a good 2 months before I started releasing them. So we had a nice cushion there. And we got to a point about a week ago where that cushion was completely gone because of travel on my end, travel on your end. And I was like, we need to start building more cushion, recording more episodes. We had never missed a week. There was never a gap in what I was releasing. So I was like, we need to make sure we don't get to that point so that we can be consistent. So we are recording 2 today. And when we're done, I'll talk to you about recording 2 again, maybe next week.
Sounds good. Anyway, so there you go. That's an explanation of why we seem like we just took a pee break and came right back wearing the same exact stuff, because guess what? We took a pee break and we're wearing the same exact shit. What are we talking about this time around, Shawn? What are we doing?
Let's not continue the conversation. I think every
that doesn't make any sense.
Have its own little vibe. We started with, and maybe this is a good place to go. I mentioned this in the last one. The challenges of the minutia that comes up in running your own business. Now, I'd imagine on your end, because you're dealing with publishing and crowdfunding, and I know you have people helping in those areas, but
that sounds so awesome. I have people.
You have people. I've got people too. I've got some people. But I'd imagine just emails, and I'd like to know your take on how you handle, like, do you have emails coming in? Do you have questions to field? Do you have problems to solve in regards to your business, not your job?
Yes, absolutely.
And how do you schedule and allot for that?
What's the best way to explain it? The rare are things ever going to pop up on my email radar that are unexpected for me. Does that make sense? Within the pre-production process, like right around now is when I'll expect so-and-so to email me because they need approvals on something. Right around now is when I should expect Leo. Like, for instance, I'm working with a colorist. His name is Giuliano Paratelli, and Jules is amazing, right? But maybe life happens. Been your
colorist since issue 1, right?
Since issue 1, all throughout the 6 issues, God willing, right?
And they are doing an amazing job.
Oh, he's freaking killing it.
Yeah.
Freaking killing it. So, Jules has a particular cadence of delivery, a specific way he's like turning in pages because he wants to stay on top of his schedule. I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say he's working on multiple things all at the same time, and he just wants to make sure that, in as far as Arcathena is concerned, it's representing his color well, his work well, because he knows he's part of a team that he hopes to represent as well. So he takes it very, very seriously.
Is he on Instagram?
Yeah, he's under G Paratelli Colors.
Okay, just want to give a shout out.
That's it. Yep, good call. And so Jules turns things in at a specific frequency, specific schedule, and he expects me to turn around notes to him just as specifically. Hey, give me a day, give me 2. And he's like, absolutely, I can keep working on something. So expectations there are as transparent as possible. They're as upfront as possible. I tell him I need 2 days. I don't lie, I don't say, hey, I need 2 days, but I know for sure I'm not going to get it to him in 2 days, because it allows him to set up his schedule accordingly. And he does the same exact thing with me, right? Hey, I won't be able to turn in anything to you this week, but next week it'll be 2x more than what I typically do because I'm finally going to catch up. Yada, I don't care. My expectation of him is the book is done by this date. I don't care how you get there, right? But the book is done knowing that I've given my notes on changes and blah, blah, blah. It's not like, hey, the drop dead window is July 1st and you're getting it all to me by July 1st and I haven't given notes back on it yet, right? That means you got to get everything turned into me way ahead of time.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to
I
ask.
don't get.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I don't get. I don't get anything
on your schedule. I'd imagine
Yeah.
you have a drop dead date for the book.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you're
and that's set
giving
up.
them enough time and
Yes.
projecting the amount of time you'll need to give notes.
I tell them what that deadline is. Oftentimes that's set by the printer. Right, because the way the printer works is that they are not just handling my book, they're handling multiple books, right? Not the least of which, like, a bunch of different clients in a bunch of different fields, not just comics, right? They're an actual printer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they tell me, hey, for us to get you in, when do you want the book out by, right? When do you want the books being delivered to your warehouses so that it's ready for, like, whatever distribution, fulfillment? I say by this time, right? I'm going to do the campaigns here. Give me a 2-month cushion at the end of the campaign. Distributors, fulfillment is going to start going out thereafter, right? Okay, great. For us to do that, for us to have everything on the truck and on its way to you, hopefully sitting in a warehouse somewhere, ready to be boxed up and accounted for, we need you to turn in these files by X, right? Because not only is it just turning in those files, you've also got to sign off on a lot of the, a lot of these things that we produce for you so that we can say, oh, the color is off, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? You need to be able to sign off. So at that, when I get that date, I give that to the team.
Okay.
Right. I need you to have this because for us to proceed with the book designer, Olea, to be able to put it all together in a file, letters need to be in place.
Who's your book designer?
Leonardo Olea, who I worked with on Run Love Kill. So we've got a good relationship that goes back. If you ask me what his Instagram is, I couldn't tell you. He's going to kill me.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because it's something I think that's important to just put a pin in because it's something important. A lot of people probably don't think about this, and you can tell by just buying art books on con floors is there's no one designing the book, and I mean I nerd out on good book design. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get by, I think, on a good book designer, right? Like, you can take a look at a book and you're like, whoa, this is really clear. As a matter of fact, some people who don't know how to design books, and we can go down the rabbit hole of conversation for that. Like, when you don't know how to design books, it's clear that you don't know how to design books. Right. I can't read the title. I can't read, like, what sequence of information am I supposed to read this book in? Just the cover alone, I don't know, right? None, that's not even taken into account, like, when you open the book, like, oh God, it's really poorly put together. There's no theme to it. There's no, like, thinking behind it. It's just like slap the images the way you want them seen inside, right? And they take a look at, a bad designer will take a look at somebody else's design, mimic that, and just like, go through the same motion, not realizing, there was intent in the stuff that you stole from, Right. Anyway, you can get by on good book designers. Leo is an exceptional book designer. Right. So if you take a look at the way Run Love Kill is put together, which is Leo at one point in his design chops to the way Arcathena is put together, and he's in a completely mature space. He's matured since then. His taste, his outlook, his overall design sense. It's a huge leap. Okay. Like, Leo gets out of, not to say Leo ever got in the way of in Run Love Kill, but the way he puts together Arcathena now, he pluses it, if that makes sense. There's a difference between, like, getting out of the way and understanding the thing that we're putting together, and, like, puts a layer on top of it that makes you go, like, that's freaking amazing. Yeah. Leo is that person. I've got in my back pocket. One day I'll cash this in. Chip Kid has offered to help me when I need it. He took a liking to me, and I went to his apartment. We had he got a commission from me, and I got to know him, and he's one of my heroes. So one day. That's a perfect example of, like, if you've ever looked through a Chip Kid design book, and people look at that and go, what's the big deal about that, until you see a poorly designed book. Absolutely. And you're like, and he, for fun, makes his own books. Like,
he basically, like the Quietly Superman and Batman books, Chip created his own art books. He owns the pages for these books, and he created his own case for them and designed a cover for them and designed. It's a one of one, but they're gorgeous.
Yeah, but that's, I think, is just a guy who is like, who understands his craft and is trying to find a way to get better at it. I bet you, I would bet good money that there are times when he's just sitting there thinking about, like, I wonder how that would look. And then he goes and puts it into application, and you're like, oh, and he probably gets a ton of learning off of that. Just the same way that you and I would with art, drawing.
Do you, actually, just a quick side note, this is something I'm working into my schedule. Do you schedule time for yourself to sketch and experiment and play, or are you too busy with your job and your book that every time you sit down to draw, it's for a practical purpose?
Well, these days it's that second part. Yeah, these days it's the second part. Very little experimentation, except for what I end up doing on the page and on the piece of art.
Okay, you're experimenting it's rare. In the project.
Yeah, because it's just my time is bracketed very specifically.
Sure, and that's been my trouble too. But
I don't think. I mean, it keeps me on the straight and narrow. It doesn't allow me like I watch my wife paint. Like if you see this thing that my wife is doing right now, I look over her shoulder. I'm like,
I saw you post something of hers yesterday.
Yeah, but she's taking
that play. That's what I'm talking about. Like
that sort of experimentation. Yeah,
I need that in my life again, and I've started a sketchbook, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And when I was in Toronto. I'm friendly with Mike Del Mundo. I'm assuming you know Mike's work.
He's amazing.
He's unreal. But so Mike, I flew out late on the Monday so that Mike and I could hang that day. Yeah. And Mike picked me up and we had a really good day, but he had, everywhere we went, he had this shoulder bag with him, and in it was a sketchbook and a whole bunch of drawing media. And just wherever he goes, he's sitting down to draw, and in an experimental way. Yeah. And that was like sort of the icing for me. I was like, I don't allow for play, and it's time to. So I started a sketchbook to do that, and now I'm trying to work that into my schedule, and was just curious if you did that.
Yeah, no, it's not typically. I mean, my time won't allow for it, and on top of it, I don't think it's in my nature to do it. Like I bring a sketchbook along, but it's not as if
good point.
It's in my it's in my programming to do it. It might be in Mike's. Like they really have a love for
it is. Yeah, I mean he just has to draw and experiment. But I used to do that. I used to tear through sketchbooks. Like I buy these Strathmore hardcover 400 series sketchbooks. I have 2 full bookshelves of them because one of them would last me 2 months. Right. I would just constantly tear through it, and then I just got so busy with kids and teaching and working that it all took a sidestep. But now that I'm getting back to teaching, I'm realizing I need to be doing more learning.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think in terms of a practical application, it'll make for good social media posts for me to promote myself as an educator and showing.
And as a learner, right?
Right, as a learner. Right, that's what I mean. Like someone who practices what they preach.
Yeah, for sure. That's smart, man.
I think it'll be good.
I hope you find your way through it.
I will. I mean, we can find our way through anything we put our mind to, right?
Sure. Maybe. Potentially. I don't know, man.
Or die trying.
Where were we going? What were we talking about? Oh, the scheduling.
Right, I derailed.
The scheduling. So yeah, Leo gets his hands on it, right? And he is at the far end of the pre-production schedule, and he's designing like a beast. So before any of that can land in his lap, everybody has to be doing their job. So Leo will come up with a proxy for the book just based on the black and white pages. He doesn't care. He doesn't like it very much because a lot of the texture isn't there yet. A lot of the feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even just designing the covers, he puts it through paces where I'm like, I don't know what you went through to think of that design, that pattern in the background, or that logo in the upper. Like, I want each cover to have a feeling of capturing not just the palette, but obviously the tone and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, man. And he's like, well, I can't do that without the color files, without being able to read through the book, without understanding the characters. And I'm like, okay, so that's going to take some time. But he gets put in the crunch. I think he gets the worst end of it. because sometimes he's not receiving files until a few weeks before we have to go to print. He's got other considerations. Obviously, it's not the only thing that he's working on. So when everything goes FUBAR, Leo is the one that has to not just spin the plates that he needs to spin, but he needs to accommodate all the plates that I'm spinning as well, and that really freaking sucks. Yeah. So how does it, if you're asking me, how do I manage the schedule? There is the expectation of the schedule is the one that I'm really deliberate about. We need to get this thing into the printer by this time. And then I start having each professional that I work with, from Giuliano to Eric Weathers, who's lettering the thing, right? To me and Joe Fulton, who's doing the editing, right? We set up expectations within each other, tempered by that schedule. Hey, before the letterer can do their job, they obviously need the script, and we need to be working for the next 3 weeks cranking on this script. And as we finish, we could slowly trickle them into the letterer, right? Now, Eric could probably letter on the black and white pages, but when he's doing effects, when he's doing balloons, when he's doing the text effects, when he's doing something that's different in a different font, he likes to know how those letters sits in the final pages.
Right, of course.
Right, in context too. So if I'm doing a big special effects splash font, he wants to know that thing is legible. So he needs to understand what Giuliano's colors look like, and so on and so forth.
So you don't do any of your effects by hand. You don't do them. You have your letterer do them. Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, only because it slows me down a bit. Right, only because I'm I have to now switch into my letterer brain and be like, how does this work? I did it for first issue because that was still in my DNA, and it still is now. Yeah. But rather than taking the energy that I have and focusing on how to letter on the page, I'm going to take that same exact energy and finish a quarter of a panel or a full panel. Yeah. So I'll let Eric do his job because I trust him.
Yeah, I get that. I just, for me, I'm very much, one of my favorite things to do is a nice sound effect with a drawing that I can draw all together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, that's what you geek out over, absolutely. Me, I'm I got 6 issues, buddy, and this sixth issue is a monster.
It's very practical. I'm not practically minded.
So that's how I do it. And then when it comes to all at once, all at the same time, sometimes it just falls that way. Personally, as far as expectations of me being able to return emails, being able to put on a different hat depending on the ask.
And you have a family too. I mean, that's
a family.
That's one thing I've noticed is there's such a difference between people who have kids and a wife or a husband versus the creators who are single. It's I'll go spend a few days with Jim at his house, and I'm oh my God, I would be so productive. And then he'll come stay at my house and be how do you get anything done?
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a difference. But go ahead. I'm derailing.
Yeah, no, and then I prioritize, right? I give it a numbering system in my head. It's 1 through 10.
Do you actually give it do you actually assign numbers? That's amazing. Yeah. I love that.
Especially when it comes to
that's amazing.
Nothing supersedes family, right? So but what's great is that I will say it too. So if there is a 1 through 10, or if there's a numbering system 1 through 10, 10 is always the least priority. It's weird. It's if I put it at 1, I'm handling that right now. Drop everything and handle that right now. Nothing beats family, right? So
1 is the hottest priority.
Yes, that's handle that right now. That's the thing that you can't do anything ahead of this thing. What's great.
And you keep this all in your head? Do you ever write it down?
No.
Okay.
No. So I will always prioritize family over everything. So at 6 o'clock, I'm checking out of here. There's no way I'm looking in this office. I'm not looking in this studio and saying, hey, let me extend it for another hour or 2 or blah, 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 blah. I don't do that. I check out because family is 1, right? But there are instances where I know I need to get to that thing, and it could potentially intrude on family time. What's great is that my communication with my wife is so I try to be as transparent as I possibly can, and she understands when something is stressing me out, so she reads me pretty well. And I'll tell her, hey, this thing needs a little bit more of my time tomorrow, next week. I don't ever drop it the day of, because It's so inconvenient and stressful and anxiety.
That's if you see it coming or
absolutely.
You have noticed,
it's rare that I'll not see something coming because I'm just like, I need to be able to set up my day that way. And here's the thing. If I don't see it coming and it's potentially going to supersede a 1, it can fucking wait.
Okay.
It waits. Right? There's really no way I am going to be like, oh, let me dump my, because my wife can roll with those punches. She's not like a child.
Right.
I hate doing that to anybody.
Sure.
If you and I are rolling into someplace and something else, pops up where I'm like, whoa, that really is super exciting. It's got to be something so profound and so reality bending for me to be like, hey, Shawn, I can't go hang out with you tomorrow.
Right. And I've seen that happen once or twice. And I can always tell by your body language and the way you speak, this is something that really needs to be handled.
But it sets up a precedence, right? Now, like if suddenly I do it 6 or 7 more times, then it sets up this like cultural thing between like this thing, expectation thing between you and I, where like, oh, Eric's willing to drop me just because something shinier comes along, and I'm never going to want to represent that with anybody.
And I've never felt that ever.
Rare will I ever do that. Right. And it lands so much more impactfully when I do, because I don't do it.
Right. I think
that makes sense.
I might have been guilty of that years ago, but not anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, my conduct that's my conduct, right? That's the thing that I put in front of myself as a point of reference. So 1 through 10, 10 being like the least important. That's just like, oh, that's nice to have, but I don't necessarily do that. Oftentimes that 10, I forget all about it. It's that like dismissible.
So something comes in your head, you give it a number, and then your mind knows to hold on or let go.
Shifts it around. Yeah.
That is, one thing I was thinking about before we started recording today is I learned so much from recording these with you. It's one of the reasons I love doing this so much.
It's not to say it's a perfect system. Nothing I ever do. But it works for me,
Sure, but I think that's a really good thing to put out there for people listening, because I think so many people, like me, for example, I don't prioritize, and so I keep them all as if they're ones, and then that's not healthy for your anxiety levels at all. And I think too many people do that. So I think giving it a numbering system is a really healthy means of addressing that.
For sure. I mean, again, works for me. Take it with a grain of salt. If somebody else if a listener tries it and it doesn't work for them, they can be like, oh, well, sometimes I make that 10 or that range shorter. So it's like 1 through 5, right? In recent days, it's become that because I like knowing, maybe it's naive. I like not knowing that there's no more than like 5 important things at any given time that I need to put my mind to. Right. It's a mechanism, it's a protective mechanism that I put through. In so that I can protect myself psychologically.
So you can never have 2 of the same number.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so that makes even more sense now. I was thinking you would like just assign each issue are we in DEFCON 4 or is this not a problem, and somewhere in between? But you're actually organizing them according to the
and
numbers.
I'll tell you, and again, this is all for me. This is all my psychological space. At any given time, on any day, I don't give myself more than 3 things to do, and that third one is probably going to suffer. That doesn't include like daily things like eating and showering and going in a workout.
So, like, give me an example of out. Like what are your 3 things in a day?
You and I are doing a podcast today. I've got to get this thing I'll talk to you about offline out to a publisher because they're expecting it. And somewhere between then and now, I've got to go find a way to work out. So
working out is part of that.
Correct. Once in a while, it can be.
Dude, I'm operating poorly. I'm doing too much
based on the metrics and standards that I'm doing.
I'm trying to figure out what I can shift and change, because I do feel like I'm doing way too much, but I'm doing it. I'm getting it done. I don't want to be living with so much on my plate, but building a business, it's kind of hard for me to know what to let go of. But I mean, I'm starting.
Shouldn't be on my list, but once in a great while, it will be. You know what I mean? Just depending on how crazy that
I mean, my schedule is
almost automatic.
At 4 o'clock every weekday, I'm at the gym. Like my work day ends there.
Yeah.
So when I think about what I have to do in a work day, it's from like 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Right.
And then on Saturdays, my gym is before my work day. So.
Yeah, my workout is at 1 p.m. 1:30 my time. So that's like, okay, I need to get to that. But sometimes, man, my what do you call it? My midday work schedule gets, my calendar fills up and I'm not even paying attention. And next time I look up, I'm like, okay, let me go jump into my workout clothes. My garage is my gym. And I'll look at my calendar and go like, I cannot miss that. So now I have to deprioritize that because a whole lot more people are depending on me, you know?
So do you miss a lot of workouts?
No.
Okay.
Like I said, once
so you get it in.
Yeah.
You just find a way to get it in. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more like, okay, so maybe I can't do it at 1:30, but I got to do it. So it gets to be at the end of my day as opposed to like hard 1:30, you know?
So I'm not as bad off as I thought then.
No, it's just, yours is hard set because that's when your day ends, right? Mine is like, I can move that workout thing somewhere. Again,
and I do move it sometimes. I mean, like you said, sometimes shit pops up. Like Thursdays, for example, we record at night. That's usually right after my workout. So I work out Thursday morning before I come into the studio.
There it is.
But I also know I'm going to stay later working because our podcast is later. So
yeah. Yeah. So there you go. To answer your question, you're like, giving me an example. Like we're doing these you and I are doing this stream. You and I are doing this podcast back to back. I prioritize that as one, right? I've got to develop right after this as soon as I do it because that's the way the time works. And I can't draw and talk at the same time, at least not efficiently. I'll get to the thing that I need to get to a publisher. And then
and that's number 2 for today.
That's number 2. And then number 3 today is something that I can't talk about on air, but that's it, right? But
you can't talk about 2 or 3 on air.
Right. Well, 3 in specific. I said something about publisher for 2, but the specificity of 3 is I can't talk about it on air.
Okay.
But that is going to suffer. That's not going to get my...
Is that going to stress you out?
No.
Okay.
Because I already know. Right, I tell my wife all the time when she's like, she's looking at her laundry list of things that she needs to get done at any given time. It's like 8 things. And I tell her, focus on 3. And expect that 3rd one is not going to get the TLC that you want to give it. So if that's the case, that it needs extra TLC, bump it to the next day or bump it up to 1. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Right, so if you can wait until the next day, put that to the 1 priority of the next day, or bump it up to 2 or 1 this day. But know for sure that 3rd one is not gonna get as much TLC. However, here's what's great about the only do three important things at any given time during the day, is that let's say you finish 3 and it is to the level of exception, like exceptional that you're looking for. It feels so fucking good.
What feels good exactly?
Like, for instance, if you crossed off 3 things that day, you're like, holy crap, that feels good. Now, it's up to you, and I recommend against it, to put on a 4th thing on your plate. To be like, whoa, I can do a 4th thing.
Okay. All
right, don't do that.
Look, I'm going to put your 3 things to use. I'm going to test drive that and see how it works for me. I like that.
At any given day. Now, it doesn't say that the number 1 thing, like for instance, you do something and put it into the number 1 spot that day, right? It doesn't mean it needs to stay number 1 the day after. Like, you just need to do enough to do that thing. Right. You get to the next day and you're like, how am I reprioritizing that thing that was number 1 on Tuesday? How is that today on Wednesday? Oh, right. It's probably closer to number 3, or I'm not going to try anything with that at all.
Do you include like your need to answer emails as like one of the 3? Like, do you allot a certain amount of time for emails, and is that one of the 3 things?
Yeah, I'm up at 4 answering emails for like for an hour and a half.
Okay.
And most of the time, those emails are the ones that came in from the day before.
Right.
Right? So that's the level of like, okay, this this is probably not priority for me to deal with right now. I can wait until tomorrow morning until I answer it. But if there's something that's like, I need your attention, like Joe, my editor, would like, Eric, I need you to sign off on this. And I know that the printer is waiting for it. Or I go like, I don't have to sign off on that until later because the printing deadline, the delivery deadline isn't for another 3 weeks or so. I'll email Joe the day after and be like, Joe, expect me getting back to you by X.
Now, the question I see at this point for most people who are going to try to do this is it just that you have absolute faith everything will get done when it needs to get done?
What does that mean?
What I mean is, like, the way my mind works is, like, listening to you explain it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But then I'm going to end up overscheduling myself because I'm going to feel like, well, if something doesn't get done, if I don't like put all into it to get it done, what's the guarantee it's going to get done? So I'm going to add 4 and 5 to my list because I need to learn to have that faith that it'll just work out if I try this method.
You may need to find that mechanism.
Yeah,
most of the things that are like super important have a finite deadline associated with them anyway.
Right.
You need to get this done by X, and that's why it's giving you anxiety. And you're like, okay, cool. I know what X. I know that date is not going to move unless I say, hey, can we move this date? It just happened with this publisher. Hey, we need everything by this date in July. And I was like, I'm looking at that date, and I go, for me to be able to turn in everything that you guys need, it's probably not going to be sufficient because there's going to be a back and forth. So can I push to 3 days thereafter? And they're like, we're totally cool with that. Cool. Great. Now I know what that date is. I just gave myself a little bit of breathing room.
Okay. Cool. Just how do I word this?
Does it ever fail? Yes.
So what do you do when it fails? Does that stress you out?
No. I have enough faith in my ability to recover and that there is nothing out there so profoundly critical, short of family, and that's why it always takes one. Okay. Short of family, there's nothing out there is just so catastrophic that I won't be able to fix it.
That answers my initial question, is that you just said it, you have faith that you will, that it'll get done.
I have faith in me.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You have faith in you. Yeah. I guess
there's plenty of times when something falls through the cracks with as professional as they may be, life happens. Sure. To the different individuals that I work with, I count them all, consider them all professionals, but sometimes somebody has a bad day. Something happens in their life that makes you go like, well, that sucks. But I'm like, I can't control that. So, right. Because of their professionalism, I defer to them. Okay, reset expectations with me.
Right. So today you've listed your 3 things, but you didn't mention your email stuff. So is that a 4th thing, or are you just not doing it today, or it's not part of the 3?
I don't consider it part of my 3 things because that's my routine in the morning.
That's before your workday starts.
Correct.
Got it.
The people might see that as a cheat, but I don't really see emails as work. Oh, emails are so much work.
No, but it's time. It's time. It's time you gotta.
It's my morning. It's like I'm up at 4:00, 4:15. And so I'm like, oh, these are easy to answer because there's nothing else on my plate short of like getting a cup of coffee and putzing around the house, right?
Right. And that's where you can get into over-scheduling all the minutia.
Yeah.
Like, well, where's your cup of coffee in your top 3, Eric?
That's dumb. That's just like life, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't overly I'm not at that level of a specificity between like 4 o'clock to 4:30, 4:45. I'm sipping this coffee. I'm just like on my general.
I might have that in my schedule.
It's so gross.
I'm trying to learn how to not be that way.
I think it's because you don't have enough faith in yourself to recover. Like you don't have enough faith to understand that without that level of accountability, you might slip and go into like non-productive version of yourself.
Right, and I'm working on changing in myself. I don't know where that comes from. I guess I need to figure that out.
Yeah, get to the root of that.
Yeah.
That's a little Yeah, that level of OCD I admire, and I can sometimes see it with my wife.
You admire it?
I do, because sometimes it works for people, man. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah. No, yeah. So do you have like for your 3 things, do you just put them in your head, or do you have a calendar you keep with them and put them in there?
Depends on whether or not it needs a calendar.
Okay.
Right. Like I know for instance, getting the pages done for Arc Athena, that doesn't have a calendar, especially issue 6.
I'm not saying like the how much of the work you're getting done in the time frame, but making sure you're scheduling time to work on it. Not saying I have to do a page today, but I do have to put 4 hours into it today.
No, that's actually pretty awesome to say, like, okay, I need collectively 4 hours to be able to work on straight or in pieces or whatever it is. No, I don't think I do that unless it requires it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like me going into the gym, I know how long that workout is going to take in order for me to burn the X amount of calories that I feel comfortable with to put myself on a calorie deficit.
Right. So do you put, do you have a set schedule for your work day, or is it just, yes. Okay. And what are your hours?
The work day starts at 9 and ends at 5.
So you won't do any of those 3 things after 5 p.m.?
Nope.
Okay.
5 or 6, short of like 6 p.m. is the added. So I used to get out of here at 5, but then my wife realized I was like, when we would be talking, she'd like, you're not really present. You're thinking about stuff in the office. And I thought it was because of the fact that there were so many more things to check off. I was like, oh, I could have done this. I could have done this. I could have done this. And that's true. But really what it was, I didn't give myself enough time to ramp down from my work.
That's a good observation.
Does that make sense? She recognized that as well. She's like, I don't think you're out here thinking about more work to do. You just didn't give yourself enough time to be like, okay, I need time to not be in work brain.
So how do you do that?
So she gave me an extra hour at the end of 5 o'clock.
And what do you do with that hour?
5 and 6, I'm sitting here like picking up a book that I've never read before, right? Just doing anything else but like reorganizing markers, like whatever it is, just putzing around in this office to not be in work mode. And right around the half-hour mark of that hour, I start going into like, I wonder what my kid is going to eat today.
Okay. That for me is the gym time at when I'm getting to the gym and getting my work in around 4:30ish. Like that's the buffer between me and going home.
That sure. Turns it all off. That's a good mechanism. Yeah. Sure. If that works, pal. Yeah, not everything is. Yeah, it saves me, and I don't know how helpful it would be for other people, but it saves me to put 3 things on my list at any given day. I need to get this done, this done, and this done.
And do you generate that list in your head in the morning for each day, or do you do like the week?
Because it changes, right?
Right. That's awesome. I like that.
Because at the end of my day, if I get anywhere near 2.5 things, I'm like, that's a good day. I did a lot of work today. But then there's some things where I'm like, do I count this like me reaching out to my contractor today to make sure that he goes and finishes that thing in my backyard or whatever the heck it is? Do I count that? You know, or is that just like a to-do list kind of a thing?
Right.
Oftentimes that gets blurred, right? To be like, this is what I need to accomplish for myself because I am the person that can, I'm the only person that can do this. Right? Like me giving a call to somebody so they can go and work in my backyard is different than me going to my backyard and doing that work.
Right.
One is a phone call.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, whatever, that doesn't take any effort at all. Or one is like, hey, or the version is like, I need to go to my backyard, pull out all those stakes so that I can go and redo the fence, blah, blah, blah. That's definitely one thing on my list today.
Gotcha.
If not the only thing on my list, right? And that's also a distinction. Don't put 3 things on your list if you know that number 1 is going to take you all day.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense. You're setting yourself up for failure. If it's a 12-hour job that you're going to need to take multiple breaks in between and you have 2 other things on your list, you're going to look back on that mental list and be like, that sucks. I only did the one thing. Dummy. The one thing took all day. Needed to take all day. Why are you setting yourself up for failure?
I do that a lot.
I know people who do.
I do that a lot. You've got me rethinking everything right now. I'm going to try something new.
I know a lot of people who do that, like they go, oh, especially when I was living in LA, I'm like, oh, I need to go do this. Somebody was like, I need to go do this, this, and this. That's my 3 things. I'm all like, okay, but you getting your number one thing requires you from getting one side of town to the other side of town and then back. Do you recognize that's pretty much half your day? Do you consider that? And they're like, no. I'm like, it's kind of important.
Yeah, that's
driving around in LA to do this one thing takes half a day or 2/3 of your day. And now you've got these 2 other things that's lingering. You're like, oh, fuck, I'm never going to get to that other thing. I'm like, take into account all of these nuances of the one thing at the beginning, at the top of your list.
Oh, man, I'm excited to try some new shit.
I'm glad that it helps.
Well, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you tell me, man.
I will. I would definitely will.
That's a good place to freaking cut off this episode.
I agree.
Let me do the outro. We can get the freaking heck out of here. Don't do that. I hate it when you do that. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
Here it is. Is this the outro?
Yo, the price of games rise up, stand the price, the loss of legs. My occupation, in essence, not complacent. Block the banquet, stop the computation. I'ma make the coda, fools just wanna make the quota. They can't rock around here, they need baking soda. This a hydra, no way they taking over. Lay 'em below the basement.